Welcome back to the Comeback Club, the podcast about the pivots, the pauses, and the moments that force us to rebuild who we are. Because let's be honest, not every comeback looks like a big triumphant return. Sometimes it looks like learning how to exist in a world that suddenly wasn't built for you anymore. Today's guest knows that better than most. Felim Meade is a content creator and advocate who's reshaping how we talk about food allergies, especially celiac disease. But his story isn't really about gluten. It's about identity, it's about grief, it's about learning how to take up space again after your life completely changes. Faye has built a platform that makes people with food allergies feel seen, less alone, and maybe, most importantly, not like a burden. And that kind of visibility, that's powerful. Faye, welcome to the Comeback Club.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm happy to be here.
I want to start with your story because you've been really clear that while you haven't been formally diagnosed with celiac disease, food, specifically gluten, has been part of your story since you were a kid. Can you take us back to that early period? What were you experiencing and how did food start to become something that you had to think about differently than other people your age?
All right, so basically rewind to eighth grade. Um, I was I was having a rough time in school. I felt like a zombie all the time, just bad. Socially bad in a bad mind state. And then my dad had been diagnosed with celiac I think 5 years before that. So my mom, being a mom, is like, you got to do something. So I cut out gluten. It did not happen easily. Would I would eat salad at lunch while everybody's munching on mac and cheese. And then on the weekends I would absolutely fold and tell my mom to drive me to a bakery. And I would just get a massive box of gluten-y food. But that was how it all began. And I kind of just slowly became better and better at um, cutting it out.
And one thing I appreciate, about your content is that you don't present it in this neat clinical box. You have the family history and you know what works for you and you don't really need the label. But how do you navigate, that gray area when we live in a generation where they want that definitive label in order to respect you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I suck at it. I hate it. I feel so uncomfortable in those situations. But I guess I tell myself what does it matter? You know what I mean? But there have been times where I do wish I had the label or, could say I really have it. Um, But
Even personally, I relate to it because I went through years of stomach pain, testing, all the tests, endoscopies, colonoscopies, everything. My doctor's they ruled out celiac, but nothing else showed up. And so that was it. They kind of just wrote me off. And no doctor ever suggested trying a gluten-free diet. It was actually my grandma, who's a nurse, who did. And to me that changed everything. But since going gluten free, the thing that I've noticed the most is that, there are people who choose to be gluten free. And sometimes it almost becomes part of their personality in a way, in a very visible way at that too. But then you have people like you and me who have to be gluten free. And it becomes part of our identity, not because we want it to, but we don't really have a choice. And that blurred line, I feel has caused a cultural shift in how gluten free living is perceived. Um,
the
and
worst
it's,
part for me is at the end of the day, I could get tested and not even have it, and then I turn into one of those people. That would be my worst nightmare, by far.
Obviously, there's different levels of it, though, too, because, like you said, even if you don't have celiac, there are still gluten intolerances
That's true.
that aren't all celiac related. And I do think that's what a lot of people don't understand is that just because you don't have something like celiac, you still have like a peanut allergy or you just have an allergy to gluten, like
Yeah.
lactose or anything like that. And
I'm curious, what's your story?
my
Like,
story,
people want to know your story.
my story, like my gluten story,
Yeah, like
I
why choose a gluten-free creator to be on the podcast? Like why not a different I don't know.
I mean
I
it
don't know anything about you.
it relates to me. I mean it's something that I go through. It's something that maybe not a lot of people in my life took seriously to begin with. And even now, I still have those friends who don't fully understand it. And when I found your content, that's what like I really appreciated is you kind of break the perception that a lot of people have. To me, you put a human face on it. And I'd like to think that some people out there will see it and be like, oh, I didn't realize that that's how that all happened. Or like, I'd never thought of it in that way. And so, really, the purpose of, interviewing people like you is to be able to say, hey, like, there's people out there who might be suffering with this or like struggling internally. And if just one person hears it and is able to take something from it, I mean, I feel like that's a success. A success.
Absolutely. I I all right, being in college. Being in college, I don't it might be the hardest like situation as somebody with celiac. I don't know if that's a like a hot take, but it's the social aspect of being in college. Did you have to go through it?
No, so actually, I was diagnosed well, self-diagnosed, I guess, after college. So I was probably about 23. I'm 26 now, so it's been about 3 years. But to your point, it has felt isolating at times. I've had moments where friends have told me that they want to grab food, but then they change the place last minute to like places I couldn't eat at, or they would just tell me to like get something that I could eat and join them later. And it was kind of just that lack of consideration, the feeling of like being an afterthought in those moments. And like, I can only imagine, like, I'm sure you've experienced that, especially on a college campus.
Absolutely. And then like me being like, I don't know. I'm hard on myself sometimes. So then I think that and then I'm like, all right, I'm just one person. Like when I'm in a group of, 5 to 10 people, I can't expect them to go out of their way. I don't know. That's one message like that I wish I could get out a little more. People don't like to hear it, but you can't you can't be too much of a burden on, you know, a big group of people like that, I guess. And if they
For
really
sure.
are your friends, they're really close to you, they will make the effort.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is like we as people who have to live with this type of diet, we know how to work around it. We know how to do that. But it's like it's the ones that are close to you, the close friends, the significant others. It's when those people kind of don't respect us. That's part
Yeah,
of what I felt is most isolating.
yeah. I've been lucky like back in high school, my two best friends were one of them was celiac and then the other one like just didn't care. Like he would eat anywhere. Just he was like, just pick where we're going, you know. And so I was blessed with that. But college, it's a whole different thing. Like you're not as close with these people. You haven't grown up with these people, and then you just force this upon them, and it's tough for them too. But
Especially in a big city, like I think you're in Philadelphia. So
yeah,
like there's so much to do and like but I feel like there, there's got to be more options than most cities.
that's what I thought coming into it. To be honest, I didn't look at like the dining hall at all, like my school's
Mhm.
dining hall, just because I figured like I'm in the city, there's gonna be shit to do, stuff to eat. Um, And like I have like two places that are my go-to spots, but they're just a pain to get to.
But like in those moments, how do you advocate for yourself without kind of like feeling guilty?
Man, I usually go by myself. No, I that's a great question. Um, it doesn't happen often that, people will like come with me, especially if I just want to go to a bakery and get like, a bakery item. My friends, we're all broke college students. The place I'm going to is like the most expensive vegan place, gluten-free, vegan, everything free, and I don't expect them to want to buy a $15 cinnamon roll, you know? Yeah, if I'm really craving it, I'll usually go alone, pick one friend, whatever. Um, but yeah, I had a girlfriend, and that's what we would do.
I mean, that kind of brings me to my next topic too. I mean, in your recent videos, you've talked about this idea of like safe food anytime, anywhere. And even the possibility of allergy-friendly vending machines, which I'm all for, by the way. But I'm kind of curious where that idea came from, like what kind of sparked it.
Um, so I have a very entrepreneurial brain. I'm always thinking of different businesses because it's just what I'm into. Um, and I took an entrepreneurship class last quarter. And of course, the first assignment is think of a business idea. So my first idea was like, um, it was basically like buying a bunch of gluten-free foods and then making my own like warehouse to sell on DoorDash. That wasn't really like that wasn't great. So then I kept thinking, um, and then I got into like I saw that hot vending machines existed, and I was like, I've always wanted a a pizza at night, but there's no pizza places in my area that are safe to eat. And so I looked into hot vending machines. Those are like $30,000. So
Sounds on par.
yeah, yeah. Again, broke, no funding. That was not an option. So then I was like, I gotta rein it back, but maybe try just normal vending machines. So that's where I'm at now. People like the idea.
I want to touch upon content creation too, because like you post about allergies, gluten-free living, the stigma, but it's in a way that feels approachable and not like alarmist, if that makes sense. Um, and so like what made you decide to start sharing publicly, and like how did you expect the content to resonate?
Well, um, that's a loaded question for me. Um, I felt like I pledged in a frat last year, and that kind of turns into your personality when you're going through that whole process. And once I was done pledging, I was bored. I was just really bored. And I've always had the urge to make videos. I actually made videos in the past um under the name Getting Fat with Faye. And I ended up deleting all those because I was embarrassed. I was in high school, people judge you, whatever. And and then this is getting into a longer story, which
I
is
got all the
completely off
time.
topic, but it's a great story.
Go for it.
So basically, I'm bored last year, and I traveled to Charleston to go to my friend's formal. When I was there, I wanted to try one of the places in Charleston that had gluten-free pizza. So I go to this place. They sit me down at the bar next to two blonde women, and I start talking to these women. Um, and then all of a sudden, we're like an hour into talking, and this woman is 29 years old. She is a content creator. Uh, and I basically became friends with this woman, and I come back to school, and we keep talking. And one night we were on FaceTime, and I showed her my old videos, and she was like, "You should try making them again," because I was telling her like how bored I was at school, and she was like, "You should make videos." So I started making videos, and yeah, it just turned into gluten-free.
That's your niche, you
Food.
know?
Yeah,
Everyone's got to have one.
yeah.
But yeah, how has the putting yourself out there like that changed how you see yourself?
That's a tough question. I don't know. I mean, I realize that I'm not the only one. There's a whole lot of people that are going through the same thing. I get a lot of DMs of kids in college, kids in high school that like it just sucks for them because like for me it's almost an outlet. I can I get to express how I'm feeling through my videos, and the people around me, they see them, so they kind of have an idea. But it might not be the same for somebody who, you know, doesn't post videos, doesn't talk about it a lot, doesn't have anybody around them that, can relate. So, yeah.
And when you take a step back, especially when it comes to like social media and stuff, it feels like more than just about food. It's about trusting your body again, learning to advocate for yourself and, live in a world that isn't kind of built with, us in mind. Um and if you think about your own version of like a comeback, what does it look like for you?
I feel like as a society, we're not there yet. We haven't had a comeback. Personally, I'm doing all right. I used this thing that sucked and tried to turn it into something that doesn't suck, and you know, I think it's going well. I was a big kid back in the day. I love food. I love food. I don't think anybody loves food more than I love food. Um, yeah, so when I had to go gluten free, it was tough. It was really tough, and it still is. Like I just want honestly, a donut or like a
Something that's not going to fall apart.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
that's dry or literally anything.
Mhm.
I just want to be able to go to the store and go to like their bakery and just buy one of those massive donuts that they have
Mhm.
and not have to worry about it.
I just want to be able to go back to New York City and just get a
Mhm.
bacon, egg, and cheese on a regular bagel.
Oh yeah,
Like just a
yeah.
regular bagel, not something tiny, not something crumbly, just a regular plain old bagel. Lastly, if someone is listening right now and is struggling with feeling like a burden because of how they have to eat or like feeling dismissed because they don't have a definitive diagnosis, what do you want them to hear?
I guess a word of advice um would be don't take anything personally. Uh, it's you got to deal with it. Come prepared, and if you don't come prepared, who knows? Maybe somebody's gonna be nice and something good's gonna happen. I don't know. Worst advice ever. Um, yeah.
I mean, all they gotta do is go to your page, and I feel like they will 100% feel seen in a way that even maybe they didn't even know was possible.
Well, I appreciate that.
No problem. I appreciate the work you're putting out there. I mean, like even like to you, it might not mean much, in the moment, but like I said, as long as it affects one person in a positive way, that's all that matters.
Absolutely. And I like honestly, I never thought that I would have 25,000 followers, but and I can't really comprehend that. But what really like resonates with me is when I get a DM from somebody saying how much they help, and that's like honestly the main reason why I keep doing it because it was comments like that that like kind of just kept pushing me. So sounds corny as shit, but
It's not. It's the motivation. It's your story. It's your platform. It's your voice. It's whatever you want it to be. Um, I do want to thank you for this conversation and thank you for the work that you're doing to make people feel seen. This has been another episode of the Comeback Club, and I hope to see you next time.